And thanks for staying with us here on News Central's Breakfast Central as we take you into the stories. We're starting off first in Zambia. Police in Chisamba have apprehended 27 people believed to be illegal migrants. This was after members of the public in Mwachisompola area found the group in a maize field and immediately alerted police officers who rushed and apprehended them.
Police Deputy Spokesperson Danny Mwale said initial investigations revealed that a group of all males believed to be Ethiopians aged between 18 and 40 were walking towards Lusaka after a motor vehicle they were using developed a mechanical fault.
Well, Mr. Mwale said the suspects have all been handed over to the Department of Immigration for further investigations. Well, joining us live from Choma, Zambia, is Executive Director, Youth Development Organization Partner Asai Butuba. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so this is not the first time the Ethiopian immigrants have been found in Zambia. I mean, you've seen them many times, they're always there. What is the police doing about this latest story? Looking at the fact that the staple food has indeed caused a lot of ripples, especially with what we heard from 2 weeks ago, the challenges, the taxes and all that. And now you have immigrants who are coming to take from what seems not to be enough for the Zambians.
I think that this is a very serious security concern by all of us in Zambia, and I think indeed in the region. But remember that all this is happening at the midst of a signed memorandum of understanding between the chiefs, the police chiefs in Southern and Eastern Africa, to combat what is called transnational organized crimes. And so when you have an increase in the influx of illegal immigrants, then we are concerned about the security situation. But also remember that in December 2022, we had 27 bodies of Ethiopian nationals dumped in Lusaka, in Chongwe area. And a few days later, the president was addressing the nation, and among the things he talked about was his security concern around our borders. So these things continue to happen. Yesterday's incident looks like an organized human trafficking, because the 27 nationals were being escorted by a Zambian to some place in Lusaka. So you could easily conclude that that was some kind of organized human trafficking activity.
Tell us a little bit more about, any information you may have about this, because, if you look at the map, of the continent, Zambia and Ethiopia are not neighboring countries. They're not even close to each other, So, it must be a very, very long route for Ethiopians to travel all the way and eventually be found in Zambia. And it's not because there's, I mean, you can fly into the country, no doubt. But if you're coming in as a legal migrant, they're not neighboring countries. So tell us a little bit more about what could be happening here. What do you mean by international trafficking of persons that, we might be seeing here?
I think that these crimes are taking advantage of the kind of peace that surrounds Zambia and its neighbors. So Zambia is also being used as a transit point for human trafficking and illegal migrants. So some of these might not necessarily end up in Zambia, but they could be destined to some place elsewhere beyond Zambia. But I think that the organizers of such crimes just take advantage of the porousness of our borders and also availability of undesignated crossing points into the borders. That makes it possible for them to cross Zambia, to different destinations. So I think what is basically happening here is the weak border regulation around controlling of human activities crossing and crisscrossing into and beyond Zambia.
All right, partner, we do recall that just some few weeks ago, if we put it maybe say a month, Zambia had signed an MOU with Kenya to actually lease its land so that Kenya can actually farm and of course plant maize, then export it back to Kenya. There were fears initially that this MOU would not indeed bring a lot of understanding, especially amongst the farmers. Do you think signing that MOU has given a room for other expatriates or other immigrants, let me put it that way, to come into your country and feel that they could do as they like? After all, it seems to be an open field for all.
I think that announcement attracted a lot of concerns from different stakeholders, civil society, farmers, traditional leaders, that Zambia has capacity to grow its own food and export the rest to the rest of the world in the region. But the announcement that Kenyans must now come to Zambia and do farming, this has been received with mixed feelings. Obviously, one of the reasons why people are not very happy about is that we are going to create an opportunity for illegal immigrants coming into Zambia to take what could potentially be jobs for Zambians. But also, we are going to have situations where the food that we are going to grow, yes, it's for Zambia, but grown by foreigners. And so that alone is going to provide opportunities which is going to work against the food security of the country. Because how do you anchor your national food security on food that is not grown by yourselves as a country? So these are some of the concerns that we are having. But we are also aware that the poverty within the region is what is making all these movements potentially to try and find what might be called economic opportunities. And so Zambia is already at the midst of its challenges, economic challenges. So we cannot afford to have extra individuals that are illegally coming into the country to come and scramble for what is little remaining for the Zambians.
Now, what suggestions would you have for the Zambian government, to stop this, and of course, also to address the issue of porous borders?
So Zambia must enhance its security in the borders. I think we must close down all the undesignated crossing points. But also it is important that we Zambian authorities, police authorities, work very closely with the neighboring countries, immigration departments, the police, and other security agencies to ensure that movements of people within the borders is properly regulated and controlled. Otherwise, it might end up into a serious crisis and a security concern for the region.
Well, for me, lastly, would be looking at the current situation in Zambia. The staple foods seem not to be enough. That's what we get as a report. Can you confirm that Zambians are not getting enough of the maize, a staple food? And are there plans, and what has the government said in ensuring that production is indeed doubled?
It is very true that we have had reported shortages of staple food, especially on the Copper Belt, Central and Lusaka provinces. But the situation seems to have, in a way, come under control. But what I can confirm is that public authorities have confirmed that we may have shortage of maize, which is used to grind the staple food meal. And so government intentions to try and export meal into the country is also facing serious challenges from other stakeholders, opposition political parties and others, who are saying that we might risk importing into the country GMO maize. So although the shortage of staple food has been blamed on unregulated export, and so the shortage has been described as artificial. So we are yet to see how far the current stability in the supply of the staple food is going to remain before we are in the harvest season, and we are hoping that once we harvest, I think this is going to cover up the gap that is currently existing.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for your time this morning. It's a developing story. And of course, I would love to speak with you again if anything changes and if there are further developments to this situation.
It's always my pleasure. I'll be available for the conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.